Successful people always find the answers, and there's always answers. If you have a backup plan, I promise you right now, you will 100% fail. Okay. Plan A is the only plan. Plan B is straight for losers.
Hello, everybody. We're here with Josh York, and we're going to be talking about winning and his journey and his lessons he's learned, and also the success he's had. And who knows, maybe Josh has got some things that could help you. Josh, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. I'm really, really honored to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
It's fun to have you on, and it's fun to hear, just to even see the highlights of your story. And I know that you've got a lot to offer for people, because we're in a world where, we've got a short life time. We've got, the clock is ticking. We got one shot to do something great with our lives. And, you've done, the sooner you can do that in life, the more longer you can enjoy it. And what I like about you is, you didn't look for any kind of particular advantages or anything. You took what you had, what you're interested in, and you turned it into something really great, something really unique. And so, why don't you tell people about that? How you got, how you came up, what you were thinking about, what sent you in the direction you went in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I've always been into fitness, love being in great shape. I always loved helping people. And I was a personal trainer, pretty much throughout my entire like high school years. And I thought it was just really cool. Like you get to hang out with people, help them reach their goals, make them feel good, look good, lose weight, tighten up. It's just a great thing. But the problem is being a personal trainer is not scalable. I always like comparing a trainer to a doctor. Doctor without patients is unemployed, and a trainer without clients is unemployed. Doctors that are very successful are either, top-notch brain surgeons, or they have, or they're entrepreneurs where they have practices with, many doctors working in that practice. And I just, always would say, I wish I could make money when I'm sleeping, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. But I knew I love fitness, and, I knew I wanted to do that. But, I literally gave it up to take a 9 to 5 job because that's what they told me to do. And, I went from making good six figures. I mean, like at like 17, 18 years old as a personal trainer to, then, continuing to succeed and that numbers grow. And then, in my mid 20s, I graduate college and I give it up for a $30,000 a year marketing job, which was the worst thing I could have ever done in my life. I was just when you actually dig into this and look at the statistics of it, 85% of people drive to work every day committing spiritual suicide. They're absolutely miserable. They hate their jobs. Friday's the best day of the week. Sunday nights around 7, they start developing anxiety. It's just a horrible way to live. And I knew within literally the first hour that this wasn't for me, but I stuck it out for a little bit. And I was like, you know what, let me go back into fitness. Had to build up my clientele again. And at the time, one of my clients came in late and just said, Josh, I wish you can come to my house. I don't have any equipment. I was like, man, it's such a simple idea. No one's ever professionalized the service. No one's ever thought about it. No one's ever franchised it. I'm going to do it. Came up with the name GYMGUYZ. It's an acronym for Get You Motivated, Goals Uniquely Yours, Zero Excuses. Got a van, stocked it with all the equipment, and just went out there and started training people. And the plan was always to franchise it. We started franchising in 2014. And, today we service, thousands of cities. We're in multiple countries, 31 states, and continuing to rapidly grow.
And the thing is that, life is a thread. It's kind of like you domino through life. The dominoes start falling, and every time one falls, it opens up another door. And so you got going in personal training. How did you do that right in high school? I've been in a lot of gyms in my life, and I don't remember a whole lot of gung ho, high earning teenagers in there doing physical training. Maybe I'm just out of touch.
Yeah. So, for me, I would just say I was a very mature teenager, right? So I was matured probably a lot faster than others due to, things that, made me mature faster. And, I was always about just that hustle, that grind. Like, the problem is, you got too many people out there that are very soft, don't want to put the work in, don't want to take risks, they're scared of their own shadow. And, putting yourself in that situation, as I always like to say, right, as the saying goes, fortune will always favor the bold. And no pressure, no result. Like pressure is needed to be successful, and you need to have that. So, for me, I've always just, I've always just willing to risk it all, and I believe in myself, and that's kind of how I was able to really build a business. People took me seriously. I was always very confident, right? And not always, but I became very confident, and that confidence is obviously very, very important because you need confidence. Because if you don't have that confidence and you don't believe in yourself, other people aren't going to believe in yourself. And as 16, 17 years old, I'm training people, and most of these people in their 30s, 40s, some in their 50s, they respected me and took me very seriously because of the way I would present myself, the way I would handle situations, and how I was a real professional. And that's very, very important. And that's kind of how I was able to really be very successful as a personal trainer at that age.
Well, the thing is that, uh, you know, people get into fitness for a lot of reasons. They have sports they're interested in. They like some different kind of competition. Usually, to stay with anything, you got to do some kind of competition. You got to have some kind of ulterior reason. Like playing the piano. You're not going to just go to Miss Martha down the street and play the piano, take lessons for 12 years, but without recitals and things where you go and you show. Did you get into competitive bodybuilding or weightlifting or strongman or any of those kind of things, or running?
I'm a big ice hockey player, still play. So hockey's my thing. I love ice hockey. And I just always love to be in shape, look good, feel good. And, you are your calling card, and you need to be presentable, and you need to look the part. Right. And, I always feel like at the end of the day, like, confidence is built from, putting in that work. And I've just always had an interest in just being in great shape. I've never, did competitions. I'm not into that stuff. I just like looking good and being healthy.
Where did you get now did that come, you grew up playing sports, with some hockey and things like that. Those are the kind of lessons you learn early on. Did you have some good coaches? Did your parent where did you get indoctrinated where, you got on a track, Josh, whether you know it or not, of thinking right. You got started some programming for success. Like people say things to me about my life and they like this, they like that. And one of my favorite things is, that's by design. That you know, that didn't just happen. That's by design. And so, you got on a track, but you made some decisions, some really smart decisions early on that have served you well. And so, where do you think that kind of came from, or where did that start showing up?
Yeah, so, I was, I'm a second degree black belt, and not that I had a passion for it, but I got into karate. My parents got me into karate. And believe it or not, that definitely taught me a lot about discipline and consistency. But I have always been different. Like I always say I'm 101. And that's how I believe everyone should believe that. But I just like there's no one like me. Like that, I'm just telling you that right now. Like things I used to do as a kid, like I'll give you an example. So I look at these magazines and like, man, these people have these six packs and I want a six pack. And one day I was about 13 years old. I decided to do, I'm not even joking, like 10,000 crunches. The next day I almost had to go to the hospital because when I talk about the level of like soreness, it was like I literally couldn't get out of bed. Like I did some type of strain so severe to my abdominals that I couldn't even move. But like I've always just had that intensity. And I didn't have good guidance because I had horrible parents. So growing up was not easy for me. But I also attribute that to a lot of my success because you have to be able to, really enjoy and endure pain. And if you can't love and endure pain because, everyone loves it when things are great, but, the real winners succeed when things are not great. Right. The first thing you see when you walk into our world headquarters is we don't quit because we don't ever quit no matter what. I will never, ever tap out. It would never, ever happen. But I've just always had that mentality. Like I've always had that mindset. I've always been different. Like I've never touched a drug in my life. I've never been drunk. I've never smoked a cigarette. And, I used to always realize that was my superpower. And now everyone's like just in like awe of it that like, what do you mean? You've never taken a drink? No, I've never sipped alcohol. I've never been drunk. So like, I've just been able to make those smart decisions younger. And I always go based on how I feel. Right. So no one could ever peer pressure me. No one could ever put me in a situation. I just was different.
Yeah. And basically standing up for yourself and paying attention to what made you feel good, and rather than go along with the crowd. So many people go along with the parents, the relatives, the friends, the network, the peer group, and they don't think for themselves. And what I hear from you is right from the beginning, you're thinking for yourself. You see yourself as you're not going to just fall into patterns because other people do it, and you're looking at how can this benefit me? What makes me feel good? What makes me want to keep coming after it? What do I enjoy doing? Basically, what do I, where's, because that's where your identity is going to be, where you're, following your curiosity, et cetera. Go ahead.
100%. I'll tell you, one thing I always remember, and it always stands out to me. I was very confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I'll never forget, I went on this job interview. And again, like I didn't have a lot of guidance. So I had to figure these things out on my own. But I'll never forget. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get into the insurance industry. So I went on this job interview. I'll never forget it. I drove into Brooklyn, New York, which is not around the block, but that's where their headquarters was. And I was looking for a position in Long Island. But I drove to Brooklyn and I met with this guy, and I will never forget it. Like, and I wasn't like so self-aware at this point, but I got out of this interview, finished it up, and the guy's like, listen, I'd like to talk to you, off record. I've been in this industry 40 years, and I just want to tell you something. You are special. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm special? He's like, I'm telling you right now, this is not what you should be doing. I'm not hiring you. And I'm like, okay. And I was confused by it. It took me years to understand it later. And he's like, you're special. That's all I'm going to say to you. I've never met anyone like you. Your answers, your age. And I left there like confused. Like I didn't really know. And then years later, it was just a moment where it just hit me. And I was like, man, that was just a very like pivotal moment in my life when that guy said that to me. Because listen, when you don't have good direction and growing up, and you don't have, good parents, and it's very hard, and you can go down the right path, so that's why it's very important to really stay focused. But that was something that was very critical. And I say, a good part of, where I started like seeing like, man, I am special. Like I started building my confidence a lot more, because that's very, very important.
People look out there that, I want to become a multimillionaire. I want to, revolutionize an industry. I want to be Steve Jobs. I want to be Bezos, Musk. But the thing is this, folks, you go through your life and you give a word of encouragement to someone like Josh at that stage of his life, you can have the life changing impact just by encouraging someone at the right. And you don't realize that we all have that capacity, Josh, to be a difference maker in somebody's life when they need it, because most people out there could use a word of encouragement or could use perspective, because most people are not like you with the ball of confidence and everything. They go through, they're full of doubt and, haven't got enough positive accomplishments in their life to have that confidence in their momentum. And, then I'm reminded of what they said the number one question Oprah would get from guests after, she had all the celebrities. The number one question as they got off stage and they're walking back with Oprah is like, well, how did I do?
Mm.
You had the biggest stars in the world, the biggest, politicians, athletes. Well, how did I do? Everybody wants to do well. Everybody's looking for encouragement, and especially when they do stand out to you like yourself. And I want to get into some of the things you've said, but before we do that, I want to get your things on the table that people need to know about how they can reach you and how they can, some of this tickles their fancy and they say, I'm liking what I'm hearing. I want to follow up. Because let's face it, we do in my I started a community. I've been working with coaching $1 million earners, or people up to the $1 million income level for basically all my life. And the thing is, you got to stay on track, and it's not today I'm going to go out. If you try and go out and develop a six pack in one day, you're going to have they're going to be taking you to the hospital like they did with Josh. We had 10,000 sit-ups one night. And so it's usually over the long haul. And if you can get in an environment, and that's what I've kind of run with, I've, with weekly calls where, like transformations happen, folks. It's like in the gym. You're not going to run into the gym and have a big, heavy workout week, and then you're going to walk out looking like Schwarzenegger. You know what I'm saying? Growth happens over time. By the way, Josh, that's a biblical principle. It's called little by little. Let you increase little by little. So you can fight that, but you're not going to win at that, because that's how growth happens. And so you got to stay on track, and you got to keep you know, you got to keep your foot on the accelerator pedal to some degree if you're going to keep your car moving. And so as you went through this thing, you developed some ideas and things, and I just want to get those on the table right now. First of all, you wrote a book, and what caused you to write the book?
I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool, just like help people that are trying to start a business, just to understand like how it starts. Like people always ask me, how do I start a business? Well, for number one, you just start, but you need a vision, right? Like so I really thought it'd be good to put together a book just to kind of give a little bit of a blueprint of like how to kind of really execute and put a business together. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, and when did you do it, and then what did you do with it? A lot of people will write a book and then they never do anything with it. Never goes anywhere. Uh,
I wrote it in 2018. It sold. It became a New York Times bestseller. It sold a lot, and I hand them out from time to time. But it's not. I'm not in this to be an author. I want to like motivate and inspire. I become very strong on the social side, so a lot of followers, and I like to be a dominant force in the industry. And I also want to indirectly, inspire my franchise owners. That's very important to me. I just shared it like crazy. I had some people who had experience with it. Obviously, if you want to like fast forward your success, like connect with people who've done it, right? So I know people who books, reach out to them and just followed what they did and they had success with it. So I had success with it. That's it. It's not really rocket science. Like the problem is I feel like a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. Like you got to understand, you're never going to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. You don't have no one has the answers. Everyone's constantly learning and growing. And the minute you stop growing is the minute you start dying. So you got to understand, you want to continuously just continue to keep, sharpening your tools and getting better and better. And that's something that, I live by every single day.
the thing is, I grew up with the same kind of attitude. I never could understand the thing they said about, men don't like to take directions. They'd rather just get out there and, the women are more receptive to directions. I could never understand someone who would not ask for directions. It's like you ask someone who you come into a new town, ask somebody, pull over the side of the road, someone who lived there, and just say, where's this address? And you can go straight to it. Otherwise, you can drive around streets all over town. Life is too short. Trial and error may be the greatest teacher, but life is too short to do trial and error on really important things, And so it, if you're looking for people who you look for people who've already been down that road and ask for some tips. But then there's a shit. Well, I'll tell you this too. Uh, that's comes across, Josh, is there's a certain confidence you have. I won't say arrogance, but there's a certain backbone that you have developed about yourself and your business and the things you believe in. But there's a certain humility about yourself too, in terms of being willing to ask for help and be receptive to that. And talk about how not everybody's got that, Josh.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have to, because, the only reason I am is where I am, honestly, is I just always surround myself with the right people. I'm always in the rooms with the greatest. If there's 5 seats at the table, I make sure I get a seat at the table no matter what. And you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like if you want to elevate, the only way you elevate is being around obviously other top performers, and that's how you continue to grow and elevate.
Yeah, the people that are not successful seem to think that all of the people that are high achievers are arrogant, snobbish, don't have time. I've found that the people who are high achievers are some of the most open, helpful, friendly.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Let me tell you something. I've been mentored by Fred DeLuca, the founder of Subway. I can go down the list and list of people that I've been mentored by. And I've never asked once someone a question at that high a level that never said no. Once, never once, never once, never.
Yeah, and the thing is that, I think the reason for that is people who reach the top have run into so many brick walls themselves, and they've been taught to be humble and not to take success for granted. It's the arrogant people that don't keep growing. They get arrogant, they cool off, they start enjoying, and then they start to go down. But it's the people who stay humble and realize they need to keep growing because they can't take their success for granted. And it's like being in shape. You you get in shape. It doesn't mean you're going to stay in shape. And so and you're learning this at an early age. So talk about, I also want to mention people that you have. You're also the book Fuel, and you have a podcast, right? And talk about why you started the podcast, what you're getting from the podcast.
Yeah. So you just search my name online, I'll come up. My podcast is called Fuel Your Drive. I just honestly started it to really motivate my franchise owners, and then it kind of just took off, and I've been able to have some really great guests on and continue to have great guests on. I just, here's the thing. A lot of people lack focus, right? You need to, and I, there's so many things I can jump into and do, but like the biggest mistake you can make is chasing shiny objects. You got to stay focused, and you can chase shiny objects if you want, but you got to wait till you really perfect something and you're really successful at one thing before you start, dipping into other things. So everything I do aligns with, what I'm creating within the brand Gym Guys. So everything talks to each other, everything works with each other, and that's how I do it. I don't start saying I'm going to do this and do that and do that. I'm very, very focused, and that's very, very important.
And that comes from, I would imagine that comes from learning what works and what doesn't work, and then also knowing your numbers where you're keeping up with are the things, is what's progress in my world that matters that I'm trying to push for, because I can tell whatever you're going for, you put a lot of effort in. And when you put a lot of effort in things, you get super pissed when you don't get the results. And it forces you to, the thing is that intensity forces you to make changes quicker, rather than just say, well, let's give it another year and see. No, 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 no. If it's going to work, it's going to work. And we're going to start to see. So, there is one side, you have to have a balance, but at some point, those shoots better come through they you better see some green shooting up there, or you better need to reseed, rewater, refertilize because it's not happening fast enough. And you got to set the pace.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the expectation. It starts with what you expect out of yourself, but also, extends to your business. But I think it's you have to set the pace for your business and challenge people to keep up with you, as a leader. Don't what would you say about that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, listen, you can't expect your team to be fired up and supercharged if you don't have energy. You can't expect your clients to be loyal. You can't expect your community to be inspired. It's never going to work. If you lack energy and you're not fully charged, your team's not going to show up charged. If you're having a bad day and I always say good leaders have to be good actors sometimes too, because if you're having a bad day, and I don't really like to use the word bad, I like to say good days and great days, but if you're having a good day and, things are not really going as planned, you still got to put that face on. You still got to smile. You still got to drive that energy, because if your team doesn't feel confident in your ability and you, then they're not going to feel confident at all. And that's where things go sour and problems happen. So, a good leader will always lead by example, and it works every time.
Yeah, I for years I've had managers come up and say, my people are dead. There's no excitement with my people. I said, yeah, because you're boring. You run a boring operation. You got a dead office. You don't have anything new on the walls. There's no excitement when they come in. There's no energy. And so how could they possibly be excited? If they were excited, they'd be in the wrong office because that's not the office you're running. And the last thing, in your sports, anytime you play sports, you're going to have a first half or for a quarter or something where you just get the other team just races off and leaves you, and you go in with a great game plan, you're supposed to win, and then the other team surprises you, they're scoring like crazy off of you, and then you get in the halftime or you get a period break, and the last thing you want to do is the coach over there slitting his wrists. Oh, woe is me! What are we going to
Um,
do? I have no.
yeah.
He's in tears. You got to have a coach, whether he believes it or not, is going to say, you know, those SOBs. They gave us all their punches. They worn themselves out. They're going to crack. They're going to get arrogant. We got them where we want them right now. We're going to come back and get them. And uh, you know, that's what the leader has got to provide. And you learn that from have leadership examples. What leadership examples have stood out to you and made the most to you? What have you learned from other successful leaders, like you mentioned the fellow runs Subway?
Yeah, I just think it just comes to everything. You just gotta, whatever you expect, you have to mirror image that. Like, I can't stand. I've seen so many horrible things that people do, like when run businesses, and it's just such a turn off. But I'll give you an example, and I'm going to use the example as I'm watching this truck next door. This tractor smashed this building down because this company went out of business, and they're building a hotel next to my building here. The first day I got in, I looked over and I saw a sign that said executive parking only, right? Little small section of their parking lot. And all the employees had to park all the way in the back. And I was so turned off by that, just for many reasons, right? Like, everyone should be equal. And this is a we thing, not an I thing. Long story short, like, if you're going to be a leader, like, everyone's got to be on the same level. That's how you're going to motivate and inspire people. Like, no one should be beneath you. And like, you can tell a lot, like, when you go out to a restaurant and how someone really just handles themselves with a waiter or a waitress. Like, you know, it pays nothing to be nice, right? And I know some leaders like to lead with, you know, power in a bad way, where it's like, do this or you're fired. And I lead with the way that I would want to be led. And that's the most important thing. And if you could have the best strategy in the world, if you don't have a good culture, the game's over, right? So, I make sure we have a lot of fun. I make sure we laugh all the time. We're doing things all the time that people enjoy, and everyone's comfortable. And when you're comfortable, it's a good thing, because you want comfort, because you want people to be open and honest with you about things. And sometimes those conversations might not be comfortable, but that's how your business is going to grow, right? If people can't feel comfortable in telling something to you, that's a problem.
Well, and that's being honest, and that's being receptive and open. But the thing is, really, it comes down, in Proverbs to talk about the wise and the stupid guy. The stupid leaders are the ones who think they can get away with, being buttholes and abusive to people, because it's kind of like going to a restaurant. If you go into a restaurant and you piss everybody off, well, when they bring you the soup, there's probably stuff in that soup that you they probably spit in the soup before they brought it out there, and if you're out there and you're abusing everybody, they're going to get you back if they get a chance to get you back, and you're not even going to know it. But all of us that run businesses, we excel. By you go from good to great when your people with what the people do when you're not looking, and they're not, and whether or not your people are motivated to go the extra mile. Your people are the ones who represent you to the public, and how are they being to the public? How, what, and that's a reflection of how you are around them. By and large, we can all have a bad apple for so, but by and large, your team is going to the energy, the extra effort they put in has a lot to do with how they feel about your company, your mission, the relationship they have with you, and but they could do you a lot of bad if they're resenting you, don't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and pushing a company to greatness is a fine line, isn't it? Because you got to push, but on the other hand, you got to. It's basically inspire. It's push through inspiration, and it's a fine line. That really is what makes a difference between a good and a great leader. Have you found that?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
You know, one thing I admire about you, and I don't know if you hear this, but what I admire is, you know, you say is it, the worst thing you did was the marketing, but I tell you what, you do a pretty good job on a lot of aspects of marketing, but from an outsider looking at what you do. First of all, how you got your name, Jim Guys, GYMGUYZ, Jim Guys. What a perfect name, you know, for what a you know, when you find the right name for, the thing you do, it just makes things so much easier, and, you know, you made it made it sound like, you know, I just came up with that like that. Was it just came to you or something like that? Or like even the book, I'm gonna compliment throw the book in Fuel, and The Drive. That it's very focused, it's very simple, it's very easy to get, it's timeless, and it's right on message with what you're doing. Your message is like the edge of your axe that you chop with. And the sharper your name, your brand, the what you call things, it's the deeper it's going to cut with people when you're trying to make an impact. And so, is that by? I'm sure that's by design. But how did you, you know, why do you think you're so good on that?
It's probably just my good looks, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just good. I'm just good at just putting stuff together. I don't know. Just I'm clever. It comes to me. The fuel has to do with driving the vans. The drive, obviously, you drive the vans with fuel. Obviously, you can't drive a van without fuel. That's kind of how I created that concept. That's a Fuel Your Drive podcast. Fuel's the name of my book. We're actually going to be launching a company soon with something with fuel. So everything ties into that. And honestly, like when someone's got something to say about you, it's always given me fuel. Like there's nothing I love more than proving people wrong. And I do it all day, every single day. I could tell you I've had multi millionaires. Like I've had $100 million people like super successful tell me things won't work. Tell me I got too many holes in my business. It's like Swiss cheese. Yeah. Good luck with that. My counsel is it's not going to work. Hope you prove me wrong. I prove you wrong every single time. I will never, ever lose. And that's it. That's just a fact.
That's one thing you gotta be disabused of on the way up is thinking somebody's an expert. They might be an expert in one thing, doesn't mean they're an expert in everything, in fact, you can almost promise they're not gonna be an expert in everything, and so, you got to follow your own instincts, but you got to follow it with a vengeance. You can't just like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. No, you got to throw your energy and you got to use that for again fuel, like that. So anyway, I want to wrap this phase of it up. We're going to keep the conversation going. I really want to dig into how you go from one, you're sitting at your kitchen table, you got an idea, and you turn this thing into 1,500 people worldwide, all of these locations. It's amazing how you did that. I want to dig into the specifics of the how to of implementing that thing here. On the second part of this, we'll have available on inside my big hitter community for my next level people. But because the mainly is uh, you don't you want to give the information to the people who will use it. And it's like you don't mind giving people the secrets, but you don't want to take your time and your effort and your energy to explain something to somebody who's not going to use it. And I know that these people will lap it up with a spoon. And so appreciate Josh you being on. This is fantastic to wrap up this phase of what we've talked about. What would you recommend people? A parting word, and how can they? What's the best way to find you and to lock in with some of your programs if they would like to do that?
Yeah. So look, number one, you take action. That's number one. Okay. The action takers will always be the money makers. And you don't need to know it all because no one knows it all. And I honestly had no idea what I was doing when I started. And no clue. Like I'm telling myself I'm going to franchise. I don't even know where to start. Successful people always find the answers, and there's always answers. If you have a backup plan, I promise you right now, you will 100% fail. Okay. Plan A is the only plan. Plan B is straight for losers. Okay. That's number one. On that front. End of the day, look, if you want to be successful, if you're consistent enough, if you're taking action items every day that's going to move your business forward, and you rinse and repeat that for, like, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, could be 20 years, could be 5 years, I don't know. But if you do that and rinse and repeat that over and over and over again, and there is a demand for your service, your product, you're getting out there, things are growing, you have to be patient. I always say be patient with results and be impatient with action. The problem is most people don't take action, right? They think they're busy. I hate when people say that they're busy. I never say I'm busy. I say I'm effective, right? There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. You have to be effective, and you have to make sure you're moving the needle, right? Uh, just, if you want to learn more about Gym Guys, you can visit gymguys.com. If you want to learn more about me, type in Google Handsome. I pop up on every single page. I'm on like page 1 through 100. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm not joking. But you can just type in my name on the internet and you can find me. At Josh Shore, pretty much all over the place. You want to learn about my podcast, you can search that. You'll see that as well. And yeah, that's really it. You want to win, put it first in your mind and believe it. And if you believe it, you will achieve it. That's it.
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much, Josh.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you having me.